This is fiction for adults, baby. I'm all the trigger you're gonna get. There's gonna be some bad shit. You're either in or you're out. Fiction for adults.
Maybe.
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 A Wolfe Brothers saga.
Maybe.
Fiction for Adults presents a romantic suspense audio drama. Because reality is overrated.
With Bree balanced on his shoulders, Cam ducked as he carried her through the threshold of Copper Creek, a restaurant he owned and managed with Maggie. He set Bree down in a corner booth. Here you go. Less than a year ago, Bree was orphaned when Maggie's brother and his wife died in a car accident. She was family, blood ties or not, just like Jags, Doug, and Gramps. And in 2 days, Maggie would be family too. He swept Bree's chocolate curls from her bony shoulders. Hey, you want a hot dog?
I'm not hungry.
You want a hot dog or not?
Nope.
Maggie slid herself under Cam's arm.
She wants a cookie, Cam. Don't you, girl?
Ajay sat beside Bree and pushed a saucer of sugar cookies towards her. Ajay, really?
I'm not allowed to spoil my niece. Haven't seen her in months.
He removed his army green cap, set it on top of Bree's head, and tapped the rim to cover her eyes.
How's school?
Bree tipped the cap up to look at him.
It's summer break.
Ajay took his cap back and rubbed the top of her head.
You got a boyfriend yet?
No.
Good. Let me know when that changes. Uncle AJ would like to have a chat with the little bugger. You got me?
Ajay, she's 10.
She's a looker. A little heartbreaker in the making.
There is nothing to worry about, because I'm gonna lock her in her room until about, say, 30.
I'm down with that.
I don't want a boyfriend. I'm gonna marry Uncle AJ when I grow up.
Honey? Cam pulled her from his brother and tapped her on the nose. Not while I draw breath. Cam was overprotective with those close to him, a trait he openly recognized, a trait undoubtedly stemmed from years of bandaging his younger brother up after Tony finished beating him or putting a cigarette out on his arms or throwing a claw hammer at his face. First aid had been a daily ritual, as common as eating or showering. For reasons unknown to Cam, his bastard father Tony had beat on AJ most often, neglecting him and his mother, although they had gotten in their occasional rundown too. Once, Cam had gotten a black eye from a flying glass ashtray, but he'd worn that bruise like a purple badge of honor, and he would have given Tony a threefold beating at that moment. But Cam was afraid of his father. He was a coward. It was a life that taught Cam how to care for another, while at the same time incurring feelings of irrational hatred and rage for anyone who hurt someone he loved. Fury and frustration at being unable to help his brother had hurled Cam into a dark place where only he and his subconscious existed. His anger festered in silence until his mother remarried and he met his stepbrother, Jags, the goofiest son of a bitch he'd ever known. Some part of Cam still lived in that dark place, and probably always would. But Jags' relentless, jovial spirit and good nature had nudged him from that darkness. And now that he had Maggie, like a bright torch, her love lit up the bleak darkness, and he was closer to the light than he ever thought possible. Though somewhere in the cold recesses of his mind, he feared a kernel of darkness would always throb within him, and he'd forever have to be on guard. Jags leapt from the booth. He shot his fist out.
Brothers.
AJ slid from the booth and bumped fists.
Brothers.
Shifting Bree to one arm, Cam made a fist with the other. Always, brother. AJ nodded and began to slide back into the booth. But Jags threw his arm around his neck, trapping him in a shaky hug. When AJ rolled his eyes, Cam coughed a laugh into his fist. To say AJ was homophobic was an understatement. Jags knew this, but it never slowed him down. If Cam had to guess, he'd say Jags intentionally goaded AJ in this way. AJ pushed Jags to arm's length.
It's good to be home.
It's good to have you home.
Jags clapped AJ on the back.
I get off work at 5. You want to meet me back here at 5:30 for a bite?
Sure.
I like teddy bears too.
I don't like teddy bears.
You will.
He waved and headed for the door. AJ slid into the booth and slammed a closed fist onto the table.
I told him I don't want to know about any more of his damn visions.
You're on your own with this one. But he's never been wrong in the past. Well, as long as he's not trying to read his own future. Cam slid in the booth across from AJ and situated Bree on his knee. So, what's your plan?
There's no plan.
You need a job.
I know.
So where are you going to work? You can't live with me, Gramps, and Maggie forever.
I have been home for less than 2 hours.
Your point?
Could you at least give me 3 hours to make any life-altering decisions?
AJ planted his elbows on the shiny green table and squeezed his head between his hands. Then he looked up.
Could you get away? Catch a movie or grab a beer.
Cam spotted Maggie with the cooks behind the line. Give me a sec. He lowered Bree to her feet and took her by the hand. Walking her toward the double-swinging doors, he headed for what Jags referred to as the pad. A room in the back of the restaurant Cam had turned into a bachelor haven. It housed a flat-screen television, mini refrigerator, cream leather recliner, and matching sofa. Bree looked up at him.
Will you make me a peanut butter and banana sandwich?
Yep.
Nate would refuse her invitation to lunch, like he had the past 17 times she'd asked. Regardless, Tilly yanked the heavy mahogany door open and entered the spacious lobby of Chase Industries. After signing in at the circular desk centered amongst the chocolate marbled walls and floors, Tilly walked to the medical clinic where her husband ran his practice from. He had been an ass since the death of their infant son, and she wanted to hate him. She really, really wanted to hate him, but couldn't. Sean Jr. was dead, and she couldn't help feeling it was her fault. as someone who worked in the medical industry, someone who was married to a general practitioner, and most importantly, someone who had married into a family genetically predisposed of heart defects. She should have been more diligent, more careful. But the EKG and echocardiogram showed no defects. So then why was her 3-day-old son dead? And why, on the day Sean Jr.'s heart stopped, had she decided to oversleep?
Not now.
Thought we could have lunch.
Not today.
Tomorrow?
I don't know.
From the other side of his desk, she glared, and in what she hoped was a dramatic display of defiance, she dropped her purse. Unfortunately, the plush carpet softened the thud to a pathetic plop.
Quit your job.
Give up the only motivation she had for dressing and showering every day? She couldn't imagine filling her days without the distraction of her coworkers and patients. Who would make Mrs. Lyman her oatmeal with just a pinch of cinnamon and a half bottle of pancake syrup? And George with his constant bragging about his grandson, stationed overseas. And what fun she'd had gossiping with Tommy about his soap opera, Endless Time. Oh, how Tommy loved to hate Belinda, that cheating, vulgar, and conceited witch.
This is where you say, whatever you say, dear.
Sinking into the leather chair across from him, Tilly's gaze drifted to the floor. Nate hadn't been the same since the funeral. He'd been distant and cruel. Feeling the same pain as he, she tried to be patient and understanding, hoping the old Nate would return soon. But his temperament only grew more distant, his behavior more crass. Why?
Your husband asked you to do something. Why is not important. All you need to say is, yes, dear.
She stood, slung her purse over her shoulder, and grabbed the door handle.
I want steak for dinner.
Antics like his counting fingers were arrogant and oddly silly, but lately his behavior had crossed from arrogant and playful to hateful and condescending. Part of her wanted to scream and rant. Another part, a bigger part, wanted to hug him, lean on him when the pain burned so hot she struggled for a breath.
I'll be home at 6.
Yes, dear.
AJ strode toward the drink station to pour himself a Coke. Short girl with long brunette hair tied in a ponytail blocked his way.
Wait staff only.
Cute. Now move.
Excuse me, but do you work here?
Work for Cam? No.
Then you're not coming back here.
AJ stepped towards her. She tightened her grip on the shiny steel. With her head tilted, her brown eyes squinted up at him.
Are you trying to intimidate me?
His towering frame shadowed her whisper of a figure, and he loved it. Sick bastard that he was. If I wanted to intimidate you, you'd know it. I don't try to do anything. Either I accomplish what I set out to do, or don't do it at all. For me, there is no try.
You like Star Wars? Me too. Have you seen all of them?
What the fuck? How did they get from him intimidating her to Star Wars?
That's what Yoda says in the 5th episode. Do or do not. There is no try.
Pee-wee, are you mocking me?
Judge me by my size, do you?
She couldn't have been much over 5 feet and probably a 100 pounds, but she confidently held him off with her tiny body and her massive attitude. How fucking adorable.
Leave her alone!
Cam bellowed from behind the cooking line. Pee-wee gave a playful nod of her pretty head toward Cam, stuck out her tongue, and ever so politely gestured to the dining room.
Have a seat. I'll be right with you.
AJ straddled a stool at the counter and watched her hurry past him. She walked to the wait station, poured 2 iced teas, and delivered the beverages to a nearby booth. On her way back, she approached, pen and pad in hand.
Can I start you off with something to drink?
Coke, please. She walked to the forbidden, exclusive wait station, her ponytail bouncing in sync with her steps. Damn, if that wasn't the cutest thing he'd seen in years. Maybe civilian life won't be so bad after all. AJ watched the cute waitress pull 2 plates from under a heat lamp. When she passed, he scented a powdery aroma. Clean. Fresh. Innocent. Much better than the rancid odor of the dork with the fedora hat and oversized sunglasses that just passed. God damn if that bastard didn't smell like wet flour gone bad. Jags insisted that AJ's overactive sense of smell was a gift. But most times it felt more like a curse. It was like goddamn tinnitus in the nose. He couldn't remember when he first started smelling every goddamn thing around him. But, might have been right after. AJ focused on the waitress. Her complexion was pale, luminous, almost transparent. It's unusual for somebody who lived in Texas. She obviously needed to get out more. He watched as she leaned on the wall beside the grill and smiled at Jake. AJ had met Jake the last time he was home. He'd been a scrawny little punk then, but now he looked like he might be ready to join the service. This cute little waitress laughed at something Jake had said before walking AJ's way and setting his coke down. The all-American girl. A cliche of normalcy personified. AJ needed to ease his way back into civilization. Getting involved with her would be like jumping out of a hot tub and into a cold pool. The temperature change would just be too jarring. Now, if only his body would play along with his rational thinking. Rational thinking. What a joke. There wasn't a drop of blood in his head. Well, not the head above his shoulders anyways. She smiled, and his cock twitched. The women he dated only wanted one thing, and he only wanted one thing back. Instinct told him that this girl would not be an easy fuck. And easy fucks were all that he knew. So why the hell was his cock standing at attention? She would expect dates and gifts like flowers and jewelry. Never mind holidays like Valentine's Day and Christmas. Not his style. He didn't beg, plead, or whine. He'd simply ask a woman if she'd like to fuck. Typical responses were yes, no, a slap in the face or a knee to the groin. Regardless, he never asked twice. He had had a dozen fuck buddies, maybe more. He'd lost count. Getting laid was never a problem. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe he'd gone too long without pussy. After all, it had been a week since he'd been inside of a woman. Consciously, he recognized her as nothing but emotional turmoil, a complication to his insanely mundane and simple life, which was exactly how he preferred it. However, he couldn't refrain from asking, "Is this your first day?"
No.
He crooked his neck to look under her hanging head. Why won't you look at me? When those big brown eyes met his, she sucked in an audible breath. She snapped her focus back to her notepad.
Stop looking at me like that.
Is this the same girl that just winked at me?
My boyfriend is sitting in the booth behind you.
Bullshit. Her thin lips pressed into a line. Eyes widened. He glanced over his shoulder. A family of 5 was seated in one booth. Then 2 elderly ladies sat in another. He glowered at the shit-eating grin on her face. She made a gun with her finger and thumb and shot him.
Gotcha.
He crooked his finger, motioning her closer. She bent down. I don't play games.
That's a shame. I can't imagine life is very fun without games. Maybe you just haven't found the right game yet.
Maybe. She was flirting. And just when he thought she couldn't get any damn cuter. You might be right. Do you have a suggestion? She placed her finger on her chin.
I'll give it some thought.
Her chest rose and fell deeper than a person's should, like she struggled for breath. Feeling he was familiar with, having struggled with panic attacks for most of his life.
Stop looking at me like that.
Her attention returned to her notebook. How am I looking at you?
You know.
If I knew, wouldn't have asked. Her jaw dropped, mouth slightly ajar, but she said nothing. How am I looking at you?
You're going to make me say it?
One minute she flirted, and the next minute she cowered. But her aversion to him hadn't stemmed from timidity or shyness. He dared to think it, but she almost seemed naive. Way too naive.
Are you waiting for someone, or did you want to go ahead and order?
Like a pathetic, hormonal teenager, his dick was deciding his next lay. Pretty fucking inconvenient, seeing as he wanted nothing to do with this girl who looked barely of legal age. How old are you?
How old are you?
28. Her posture stiffened, her blush deepened.
19.
Holy fuck! She was barely legal. She tapped her pen on the back of her hand, smiling coyly. He could almost smell her virginity. Nothing to eat, I'm good with Coke. She nodded, a clear expression of disappointment. To hell with her. She could keep her teeny bopper emotional drama bullshit. His cock twitched again. Fuck. If he could just bend her over the counter, penetrate her forbidden passage between her thighs, he could blow his load and get this vixen out of his head. He'd bet a month's salary her path was traveled by few. Maybe even none. Despite his intellectual objections to her virtuous self, visions of her fragile, soft mouth wrapped around his cock had him squirming on the stool. He was more than ready to blaze a trail and explore with great precision. First with his tongue, and then with his cock. Cam approached and straddled the stool beside him.
Emily, this is Ajay, my brother.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
You're cut. Cash out with Maggie.
She slid into a nearby booth and started dividing her cash and credit card slips into neat stacks.
Let's go.
I'm hungry. Let's eat here first.
I'll have the cook whip something up. What do you want?
With her heart-shaped ass and those thin lips that ache to be chewed on. But she probably wasn't on the menu Cam was offering. Fucking A.
She's not your type.
And what type is she?
She's too short. She's too smart. She's too friendly. She has 10 toes. She breathes air. She laughs.
All right. Forget it. Let's just get out of here. Go to critters or something.
Let's go.
AJ stopped just shy of the door and turned for one more look, but Cam dragged him through the doorway. Once outside, Cam slapped a heavy hand on AJ's shoulder.
She is off limits.
She seemed cute enough.
She is off limits. Get me?
I just wanted to talk to her.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I'm going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's go.
Tilly had only left minutes ago, and he had barely kept it together. The subtle hint of her perfume still lingered. His hands yearned to touch her. His lips hungered to kiss her. But he couldn't move past his subconscious, which detested her. She slept soundly. She laughed and went out with friends. She read books and did crossword puzzles. Her ability to bounce back from the death of their son infuriated him. Every time she smiled, his insides twisted. Why hadn't she suffered a fraction of what he had? Desolation and rage plagued him exponentially with each passing day since his son's death, but not her. Was he the only person who loved his little boy? What college would he have attended? What career would he have chosen? Would he marry young and settle down, or travel the world first, living life to the fullest? Try knocking, asshole.
Did someone say come in?
Nice tie. Is it new?
Yeah.
The words, "Nobody asked you," were sprawled across the thick end with a depiction of a naked butt underneath, followed by the words, "Butt out."
You like it?
No. Jags sat forward, his elbows propped on the desk, his fingers laced under his chin.
You should come to Cam's bachelor party. It's Friday at Zeke's cabin, just outside Sam Houston State Park.
AJ going to be there?
Of course.
I hate that guy.
Your wife's the matron of honor, which makes you a part of the wedding party.
No.
Come on. No girls, just lots of alcohol, playing pool, and swimming.
I said no.
You need this. I'll go through Tilly if I have to. If anyone can talk you into it, she can.
Back off, asshole.
Hey, I'm just trying to help.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that. I don't want to leave Tilly alone.
She won't be alone. She's sleeping at her sister's house Friday. Star's throwing Maggie a bachelorette party. Your wife, your sister, and Sage are going.
Emily's going.
Do you have any other sisters I don't know about?
Why is my sister going? She hardly knows Maggie.
Star invited her. So you can either hang out with the guys or sit at home alone.
Explain why you know where my wife would be sleeping on Friday, and I didn't. Jags leaned back. He laced his fingers behind his head and kicked his feet onto the corner of the desk.
Let me guess. That's a text from Tilly informing you of her plans to sleep at her sister's house on Friday.
Using his middle finger, Nate scratched his forehead.
I'll email you the directions. You can stop by anytime after 6. You won't be sorry. It's gonna be a blast.
You can make a funeral a blast. A pit in his stomach swallowed his next breath. He turned his attention back to his laptop.
Maybe not a funeral.
AJ rubbed his eyes with his fists. The 4 Jackson Cokes he drank over the past 2 hours really churned in his empty stomach. Or maybe it was 5. That wasn't including the 2 Barbara had brought him. Double D's, short red hair, A little big in the hips, but that didn't bother him, because when he got to see her naked on top, bouncing on his dick, tits swinging this way and that way, her hips would be the last thing on his mind. His thought would be on licking her nipples, her tight, wet snatch, and...
Wake up. We're here.
AJ found himself being dragged from the expedition. AJ squinted, trying to focus his blurred vision. A juicy, bourbon-flavored burp hiccuped from his dry throat. He swallowed, laughing. He shuffled to the booth where his stepbrother was seated. He slid beside Jags. 2 booths down, Suravi, a tiny woman of Asian heritage, set 2 iced teas down. Memories of their last encounter, a wild weekend of marathon fucking, had played in AJ's head. AJ scanned the room for the dark-haired beauty. Suravi was clearing dishes from a table of rednecks dressed in camouflage. She'd cut her hair to just above her shoulders. As soon as AJ had her on her back, he would express his disapproval. When Suravi approached,
"How are you, sweetie?"
Jags offered his hand.
Hi, Jags.
Did your sister's mortgage go through?
They close in 6 weeks.
Fantastic. Did you decide on a minor?
I'm thinking accounting.
How are your grades looking? Are you keeping them up?
Yes.
How about that new car? How do you like it?
I love it. Gets great gas mileage. Leather interior. Oh, and it has seat warmers.
Must work great, 'cause her ass was hot as fuck. Cute little dimples jiggled tauntingly as he fucked her cunt from behind. He restrained a moan.
Just get us some appetizers. Thank you, Suravi.
I'll come by tonight. You'll be home. With a smile, she nodded. AJ leaned over his folded arms and looked at his brother, friend, and mentor. So, you're getting married?
Yep.
Never thought I'd see the day.
I'm not sure what kind of response you're looking for.
She's the yin to his yang. Excuse the cliche.
AJ found Jags' ability to read people as if their life story was just imprinted on their forehead impressive. If Jags believed Maggie was the yin to Cam's yang, then Cam's marriage had a solid start. His blurred vision spotted Emily behind the wait station. Jake whispered something and she laughed. Not a hint of makeup, AJ suspected, and still quite the beauty. So full of life and naivety. The burdens that weighed down on most others really didn't seem to affect her, as if she didn't have a care in the world. AJ couldn't recall a single time in his life, even in his childhood, where he didn't feel overwhelmed.
Fuck, AJ.
What?
You want me to get you a bib for the drool?
Fuck you. Jags knocked on the table in front of AJ.
She's the yin to your yang.
Cut the shit.
You go near that woman, and I'll beat the fuck out of you.
I had a vision.
I don't give a fuck about your vision. I'm not going to let you break that girl's heart.
What was your vision? Cam reached across the table and grabbed AJ by the front of his shirt.
You gonna marry her? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Cam shoved AJ back into the booth. Usually you go on a date, before you plan a wedding. Cam was no Shakespeare, like Jags, but he was a romantic through and through. And his sanctimonious notions about love and forever annoyed AJ to no end. Aside from their appearance, he had little in common with Cam.
You don't plan on ever getting married, and Emily is not the type of girl you can screw and toss to the curb. She's been sick, okay? She hasn't been out much lately, so just let it go.
She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to need him.
What the hell did you see?
A crash sounded from the back wait station where a sexy blonde with shoulder-length wavy hair and perfect C-cups stood over a shattered glass. Ajay imagined running his fingers through her soft strands, looking down at the top of that gorgeous hair as she sucked him off.
Something bad happens. Real bad. And AJ is the only one that can bring her through it.
In between fucking half the population of this town?
It doesn't work like that. I can only tell you what I see. Not what gets people there or if they'll stay there. But he is definitely in her future.
AJ shifted his weight. He took a deep breath. Shit.
I shouldn't have said anything about Emily. I'm sorry.
AJ had no idea what Jags' vision meant. All he knew was that he couldn't breathe. He concentrated. One slow, deep breath in, and slowly release. Panic attacks, something he'd struggled with since he was a kid. AJ, a U.S. soldier, the relentless, pitiless, mercenary, permanent resident of the country of badass. Except when these panic attacks hit randomly, which shot him straight to Pussyland. What happens to her? Jag shook his head. You're not gonna tell me? He thought about getting in Jags' face, but he knew better. The guy had a black belt in, something, and could easily kick his ass. So Ravi approached.
Nachos and mozzarella sticks.
Tell me what happens to her.
Knowing won't change the outcome. And even if I knew the details, I would never burden you with them.
AJ grabbed a cheesy nacho. He looked towards the soda station where Emily was again talking to Jake. He tipped his head back, he swung a strand of the partially solidified cheese into his mouth. He reached for another. That's when he noticed Jags and Cam staring at him. He looked at Cam. I won't touch her, I promise. Cam arched a questioning brow. I ain't into teaching. And that girl would need so much coaching. He grabbed another chip. He looked up at Jags. When and if your vision comes true, and she needs me, I'm there. Okay? Jags raised a questioning brow.
Wolfe Brothers Saga. FictionForAdults.com